Alright, hello, welcome back to the studio tonight. So tonight I'm going to follow up on my painting of the seagull that I did last week. I'm going to paint another shorebird, seabird that we have here where I live. I'm doing this time our old friend, the pelican. Here he is. I didn't take this from any one particular picture I found. I just looked at pelicans in general and picked up a few details here and there from them and made a composite kind of a drawing. It's probably not quite right, but it's close enough for what we're going to do with it, and we're going to have some fun painting him tonight. So I think let's get going with this. Now I'm going to just take and wet his head up here. He's got a whole host of yellow feathers right on his head. I guess I should say this is the brown pelican. I'm ashamed to say I don't even know what other kind of pelicans there are. Alaskan pelican, white pelican, I'm not really sure, to tell you the truth. And I should know that. I see these guys flying around every day. I love the fact that they're kind of prehistoric looking. They're just absolutely crazy. I hope you have pelicans near where you're at, or if you don't, you get to take a trip to somewhere where they do have them. All right, so I'm just putting some yellow up here. I'm using Hansa yellow, not for any particular reason. I just want to throw that on there, and it's run down a little bit. I'm going to scrape it back just ever so slightly. I don't want that yellow to run too far down around his head there. All right, and I'm going to mix up a little bit of my cerulean blue. Just a little wash. This is cerulean light. And I'm going to put that on the back side of his neck back here. There we go. Maybe a little bit of a shadow back here or something. There we go. I'm just going to let that spread around a little bit. There we go. And you know what, with that I'm going to put in just, mix in just a touch here of burnt umber with that. Did I get that on screen? There you go. Just the tiniest little bit of burnt umber. I just want to put a couple of dots of this. That's even too strong. Right like that. Just add a little bit of extra color onto this guy's neck. Just a couple little bits. There we go. I think that's pretty good. And you can already see, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. You can already see he's got some really nice colorings up here. Now I'm going to move on and do a little bit of his beak. I think I'm going to start with a little bit of my Pyrrol red. And I'm going to mix in, since I'm already using it, I'm going to mix in a little bit of my Hansa yellow. Oh man. Okay, there we go. So again, it's just a little bit of my Pyrrol red, a little bit of my Hansa yellow, just to make a nice orangey color. Still fairly light. I don't want this to get heavy at all. I'm just going to put that in the spot where I've drawn in his beak. I think I should learn to put that on this side over here. I would probably be a little bit better off. There we go, something like that. Just putting a little bit of color on there. And he's got this weird kind of different color end to the beak. So I'm just going to go back to our cerulean here and just dab on that little bit of color right at the end of the beak, just to make it change that little bit. And I'm going to grab just the tiniest bit of Payne's gray and mix it with my cerulean. I just want it a little bit darker. And I'm going to make a little bit of a mark on his beak here. And I'm hoping it's not too watery. And it looks like it is. That's alright, we'll come back and fix that. It'd be totally fine. Okay, so I want to continue mixing my Payne's gray here, and I'm going to mix in with that. I'm going to make 2 wells of it. I'm going to make one with my ultramarine blue, which I believe is this one. Yep, that's it. And I'm going to mix one with my burnt umber, and now I've got 2 different colors of gray here. And down on his underbelly down here, I'm going to mix a little bit of my bluer gray down here. It's a fairly sizable portion. There we go. And our gray, remembering our gray, our Payne's gray, is going to dry a lot lighter. It's already going to dry 50% lighter or so than it looks right now, and our Payne's gray dries a lot lighter than that anyways. So I put this on. It looks so stark and so dark right here, but I got to remember it's not really going to be like that. And then up on the top, I'm going to put on my Payne's gray mixed with my burnt umber. And I've got 2 different colors of gray on here really quickly. Just putting that on. There we go. And I'm going to try to mix in. I've got a little bit of this orangey color. I'm just going to just barely put a little bit of this on. This is probably not a color you're going to have in your painting kit. It's transparent orange oxide. It's a great color, but it's maybe not the most common color in the world. But I just want to add a little bit of extra color down there. And let's see. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to drop down a brush size. And it looks like my bill is drying up a little bit. So I'm going to make another little bit of our mix. Again, there we go. Again, Pyrrole red and Hansa yellow. There we go. And I'm going to put in just a little bit more color on his beak. Underneath here. Bring that all the way down to the end. Down there. And I know he's got a couple of like long striations on his beak here and there. So I'm just going to try and drop some light lines in here with that. Let's see. How am I going to do this? I think that's good, just like that. I don't think it matters exactly at this point what those lines are exactly. We got a little bit more work to do on it. I don't want those to be super stark, so I'm just blending those out a little bit. The one on the bottom I really like with a hard edge on it. The ones on the top I'm not quite as wild about. I'm going to come back into my straight Hansa yellow. I'm going to darken this up here just a little bit, and I'm going to leave a few little dots up here on the top of his head. There we go. I hope you guys can see that. A few dots right up here on the top of his head, just for a few highlights, like maybe some feathers out there. There we go. We've got that bit of yellow underneath there, so I think that's going to look really nice, like some feathers maybe fluffed up there. And along his backside here, the back of his neck, I'm going to mix up a little bit of my gray and I used blue over the last time, blue and burnt umber. I'm going to use, well, let's see, I'll do it on the front side of his neck over here. Let's see, I'm going to come from this side. Just going to darken that up right there and blend that right out. A little too much water on there. There we go. I just want that little bit right next to his beak to be a bit darker. And I'll go back to my cerulean. Put it on the back seat. I'll put her on the back seat. I'll put her on the back side of his neck back there. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to blend that out. There you go. I think you can see that. Might be a little strong. That's a little strong for me. I'm just going to continue to blend just ever so slightly with just a damp brush, not even a wet brush. Just a damp brush until I get that color just about like I want it. I think it's pretty good right now. I'm not going to monkey with that anymore. I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to come down right now. The rest of our body has dried up a little bit. I'm going to come down to that and let's see what we can do. I'm going to add a little bit of darkness to it. So I'm just going to get a little bit more of my Payne's Gray here. Add just a little bit of my burnt umber to that. And I'm going to darken up behind his bill again. There we go. Just right behind there. And same thing as before. I'm just going to grab that and pull it out a little bit. What I want to do is, I don't want to necessarily, whoa, that's way too wet, leave all of that color there. I want to just get a little line in there, and I can blend that out. And that's going to get a little bit of darkness right next to that bill all the way down. Hopefully that's going to let it stand out a little bit more. Alright, so I know we've got some pretty dark spots underneath the wing here. And I'm going to paint that in with the mixture we were just using. And I'm just going to, I don't know what the name for this is. I'm just going to kind of like fleck this edge, right? Make it look like just a little jagged edge there. Make it look like maybe the feathers are coming down onto that a little bit. I'm going to mix a little bit of blue into there. Maybe a little bit more of that brown. No, I like the blue better. I'll just dab a little bit more of that into our mixture here. And there we go. I'm not trying to get that perfect. You can see a little bit of the undertone coming through there. I'm not trying to cover that up, because what I'm hoping it's going to look like is that this bird's feathers, maybe he's got some down there, not too many, but some that are reflecting a little bit of light there. And we just want to be able to see that. And we'll just bring that up that little bit. Might have come up a little bit too high there on his body. He's standing up, so most of the shadow is going to be below him, but we'll call it good. And I think what I'm going to do is on the wing side over here, I think I'm going to continue that line up just a little bit on that side. Maybe to make that wing stand out just a bit more. And just blend, real softly blend that other side out. There we go, that's not so bad. Right, definitely looks like he's got a wing sitting on top there. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. And I'm going to come into my Payne's Gray. I'm going to add my burnt umber to it. Doing that off screen right here. I've just redone my mixture here. There we go. And I'm going to come and I'm going to paint right around his eyeball here. I'm actually going to drop down one brush size just so I can make sure I get you know that tight space there, have like a black right around their eye. It's pretty dramatic. And so I'm just kind of tracing where I want the black to be on this guy. Right down underneath, there we go. And I'm going to go around his eye. I'm not going to paint his eye. There we go, maybe just almost there. Look at me, I'm trying to be careful and stay inside the lines for once in my life. There we go. There he is. There's his face coming to life. It looks totally different now. And he's got a little bit of a line on there, and I'm going to, I don't know, let's see. I'm going to go back to my, where did my brush go? I'm going to go back to my little bit bigger brush. I hope this was it. And I'm going to go back to our orange color, which was our Pyrrol red, our Hansa yellow. Just mixing up a little bit more of it over here. There we go. And I'm just going to put a few little bit more on his beak here. There we go. A couple of lines that you can see there. And I think I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to paint a black streak down there a little bit. That's going to come out of, well, that black around his face. But we're going to do that in just a second. Because now we're going to come back here and we're going to put on his wing colors. And so we had used our Payne's Gray. We're using a lot of this. Payne's Gray and Burnt Umber. Make a nice mixture here. A nice soupy mixture. And I've dropped down, this is a number 2 brush that I'm using, pretty small. And I want to come and I want to start penciling in just a few bits of where I think his feathers go in here. Right, something like this. Let's see, I'm going to put that stripe down his back just to denote the center, and then I can pull feathers out of that. And then from there, I can just go right along the curve of that wing. And if I get some bigger, some of these flecks or lines, basically lines, a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, doesn't matter, it's totally fine. And a couple little bits down here. If you wanted to, you could go backwards like this. It would look like maybe he's got a feather in the air somewhere. And if they're not perfect, it doesn't matter. If they're not perfect, no big deal, because you know what? No bird has perfect feathers if they've been flying around all day. Let's see, he's got kind of a black line that comes down here. Kind of divides where their neck is at a little bit from the rest of their body. And I'm going to switch, I'm going to make our Payne's Gray mixture here now with our ultramarine blue, because I want to put some of our feathers, real small ones up here. Is that too wet? I'm afraid it, okay, there we go. Just a few up here to give him some texture up there too, and maybe a few larger ones down at the bottom. Down here, there we go. I think that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to switch to to do this, and I'm going to attempt to do this. This is a number 2 liner brush, a rigger brush. I'm going to set that right in here and try to draw this down, some nice fine lines. Let's see. We don't have to draw everything that's on here. In fact, I think that's all. I just want to give the little indication of something on his beak, some lines on there. I'm going to mix up, I'm actually going to make his eye pretty blue here. I don't want to make it black. I know it probably should be black, but I'm going to mix my own. I'm just going to make it, well, I might use our same blue-gray mixture here. I'm going to come over here because I want it to be just a little bit different. I want to be able to leave a highlight in there. I like when you look at it to be able to know that eye is just different enough. All right, now we need some feet, some legs on here. We can go back to our paint here, and whoops. I'm going to go back to our blue-gray mixture, and I'm just going to pull a little bit down. Just like that. Just pull a little bit down just below his body. And you don't need it super dark, just a little bit. And then I'm going to go back to our other color, and I'm going to pull down from there. They have pretty substantial, pretty stodgy legs. If you can say a bird has stodgy legs, I don't know. And the same thing on the other one. And right in the middle of it, just put a bend and a bend. Uh-oh. I went off right there. I'm not going to worry about it. And for the most part, our pelican is done. We can have fun at this point with a background on him. Let's see. Make a nice cerulean background. I'll go with cerulean, deep color of cerulean, and we'll mix some Payne's gray in that, maybe to darken that down a little bit. I think that'll give him a nice, we're going to have to darken that down. That'll give him a nice background. Nice overcast day when he's been out fishing all day and just kind of came back and landed on the shoreline here, looking for something to do. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get around some of those individual feathers, feather-like things that I kind of painted on there. And there we go. Just putting that on real quick. I should say I'm putting it on a little bit lighter. I'm trying to put things on a little bit lighter than I normally would because I'm going to turn this around just to make this a little bit easier to do quickly. I'm trying to make this a little bit lighter than I normally would do this, than I used to always do this. What I want to do, and you could try this yourself, is to have a value difference between your subject and the background. Right? So when I started, my thing was I want to paint everything, and I looked at it and I would paint it and everything would come out the same, with the same darkness, the same hue, the same saturation, I mean. And so it never looked like the thing that I wanted. Okay, I'm not sure where I was at. I ran out of time. My camera only films for a certain amount of time, and then it shuts itself off, and it shut itself off on me. And so I'm sorry, but what I was saying was I wanted to paint everything. I just got out there and painted and did whatever I could, and everything was the same value. There were no differences, and I never noticed it until I tried to change my picture to a black and white picture, and all of a sudden it was just all the same color. And I went, wait a minute, what's going on? My pictures aren't popping out like I think they should. I don't know what's happening. I'm not happy with it. And what I came to find out was I was making my background just as dark, just as rich as I was the things in the foreground. And as a result, everything looked as though it was in the foreground. So I just want to be cognizant. I want to let you guys know it's a good thing to avoid, is trying to make everything the same value. So here you can see, well, at least in some places anyways, our background is a lot lighter than our foreground object, and it almost looks like he's lifting off the page. So anyways, there you go. There's a quick and easy Pelican. I enjoyed doing it. I hope you had fun doing it. Thanks for stopping by the studio again. I'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping by. Bye-bye.